Well, there's been lots of NFL news over the past 24 hours. We're going to talk a little bit about that, how Derek Stingley's contract negotiations are going to change some of the ways that we think about what the Chiefs have done already this free agency. There's lots to get to. Obviously, we can wrap up things that happened last week, but this is your guys' night. I'm here. Ryan's on vacation. He's going to take a little bit of time away, well deserved. But this is what we do on Monday nights. I will be answering all your guys' questions here on RGR. What's happening, everybody? I hope you have enjoyed your Monday because, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about some things that happened today, how all of this can change with what the Chiefs will do go forward. But again, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome in. My name is Daniel Harms. I am the senior film analyst here. Appreciate that one of our actually members gave me that wonderful title, Jeremy. If I'm not mistaken, that was you, as my daughter runs in here like she always does. What are you doing? Yes. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Needed that. But yeah, so big news coming in this morning that Derek Stingley was getting a very big contract extension. Excuse me. Mwah. I love you. Thank you. Mwah. Go on. Yes, I know. That's my tattoo. Go on, sweetie. Yeah, get ready for bed. So, Derek Stingley, right? That's the contract we're talking about. Big contract. Let me pull up the numbers here real quick because I don't have it on hand. I'm not very prepared, as you guys can tell. Right here, it's a 3-year, $90 million extension with $89 million guaranteed. So, exactly. I appreciate that, Jeremy. As always, very much love having you here. I'm glad to see you guys here tonight. But like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about, right off the top, about why this matters to me. Now, Mitchell Schwartz made a very good point on Twitter. If you guys, obviously, I'm sure most of you do follow him. But the simple fact of the matter is that when you have players, really good young players, teams always want to get out in front. They always want to do right by them to be able to pay them as much as possible. Things happen. Obviously, the Chiefs did not necessarily put Trent McDuffie as a priority amongst their free agency stuff, what they wanted to do this offseason. It was more about getting the tag on Trey Smith, trading Joe Thuney, bringing back Nick Bolton, so on and so forth. So what this means for me specifically, why, I'm not like mad about them not extending him. The cap will go up. They have multiple years of control over Trent McDuffie. But if you look at what J.C. Horn got, around $25 million, that would have been the time to start coming in and giving, at least assuming, trying to say $28 million for Trent McDuffie seems pretty good at this point. And that's what this is for me, because we have video of Brett Veach at the Combine saying that they were not a priority in terms of George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie. It was about getting other things done first. So changing some of the priorities. For me, I would have liked to see Trent McDuffie's deal at least try to be hit a little bit harder early on. And if then we don't have any negotiations after that because he wants to wait, that's fine. But we actually have the video confirmation that Brett Veach said, if we don't get to it before the draft, we don't get to it before the draft. So, like, of course, there's always ongoing negotiations in terms of conversations, and that window opened up this past year for Trent McDuffie. But again, you have to have two sides to make a deal, two to tango, as they always say. But overall, it would have been nice to see this get ironed out a little bit earlier. It was always going to be expensive. You could have saved a little bit more than plus $30 million. And then you're looking at probably 32, 33, because he's going to ask for more. He's asked to do a little bit more than Derek Stingley in terms of playing outside and playing inside. And he's also got 2 All-Pros under his belt. So things can get a little dicey from here on out. But obviously, like I have said twice already, you have to have two sides to make a contract, to make an agreement. And if the priorities were different, maybe they get that done. But as we've seen, that has not been a Chiefs priority. So just one of my, I guess, interesting situational things that we've seen. But again, this is your guys' show. We'll go ahead and get into some of your questions, and then we can talk a little bit more about some of the craziness that has happened, like this one right here from Micah, because as he usually is. He's in here all the time to begin with. But what's up, guys? Do you like Cincinnati's plan if they're able to re-sign Trey Hendrickson? Will it work long term? I think any point of signing your good players is a good thing. I'm not sure it's going to work out for them because you do have to be able to sign Trey Hendrickson, who has asked for trades multiple times over the past 2 seasons. He's been asked to be traded multiple times. So that becomes a little bit of an issue. Now, money always talks, right? Trey Hendrickson over the last 2 seasons has put up more than most defensive ends in terms of sacks. You think he's going to not want a little bit more money in terms of where we saw Myles Garrett contract, right? Myles Garrett just got $40 million. $40 million. You think that he's not going to get all that money, but we're probably talking $35 million a year. Probably. Because, again, I think he led the NFL in sacks last year. Just saying, I don't think they're going to be able to pay him what he's going to ask for. So I don't think it's going to work out long term, specifically because they got rid of a very good defensive coordinator because they drafted players that didn't necessarily work out on the field. That's not always the defense coordinator's fault, but now you're probably going to lose Trey Henderson too. So personally, I always like trying to stay and keep good players if you can. You know, Jamar Chase, $161 million. T. Higgins, $115 million over 4 years. Those are both over 4 years. It's a lot of money. At the end of the day, 3 players in Cincinnati are making a lot of money. I don't have the percentage of the cap, but if somebody has that, it'd be cool to see what the percentage of the cap that those guys are making in terms of maybe this year and going forward, and especially in terms of guaranteed money. But always want to keep good players. It's hard to do it. Good job for Cincinnati for finally paying their good young players. Like that's not something we see from them all the time, but it's always nice to see. What's going on, Minotaur? Hi, guys. What are the possibilities the running back room gets completely ignored the rest of the offseason, and what would that implicate? So I do believe that we're probably going to see the rest of the running back room ignored for the most part until the draft. They're going to be probably drafting one, bringing in a couple of UDFAs. So in terms of possibilities that from this point on, this is all the only running backs that we see in Kansas City, I think that there's no chance that happens. They have no explosivity in terms of, I mean, granted, we don't know where Isaiah Pacheco is going to be coming off of this injury, because even when he was back, the Chiefs still had the slowest running backs at the line of scrimmage in the NFL. When they're crossing the line of scrimmage, they were the slowest group in the NFL. So I do think we're going to see some difference. They want to have some youth, some guys that maybe aren't injury prone. Both Elijah Mitchell and Isaiah Pacheco are injury prone at this point. And let's be honest. Kareem Hunt, I love him being back in Kansas City, but overall, he's not a fast, explosive guy anymore. He's just a really good short yardage back. He's going to get the most out of what he possibly can and be able to get to the next level. And that's really about it. So I don't think there's a really big chance that they just ignore it the rest of the time. Like that just doesn't seem possible to me. So appreciate that, SSG. I know we got some more coming from you. We'll definitely get to that. Back to another one here from Micah. Can you just assume Trent McDuffie gets traded in the next 2 to 3 years? What can we get back? So no, I don't believe Trent McDuffie's going to get traded, regardless of the cap hit he's going to get. So right now, the Chiefs still have the 5th-year option on Trent McDuffie, and then they still have the franchise tag after that if they were to negotiate that. So you have to take those into consideration as well. The Chiefs still have 3 technical years of control over Trent McDuffie. Now, I would imagine you're going to be hearing some things after the draft or close to the draft about a contract extension for him because, one, he's a very good player. They want to keep very good players, as they have shown. They've usually just been a year later than most people would like. Paying them early, trying to get out a little bit in front of it and overpay a little bit early. That's why I mentioned the $28 million mark earlier. After J.C. Horn got his contract, maybe you come to the table and say, hey, J.C. Horn isn't the player that you are. He's had a couple of injuries. Well, why don't we give you $28 million? We'll kind of make it that happen. That's where the Chiefs have not done their best due diligence, in my opinion, where they refuse to try to overpay early and then they end up having to pay too much later. That's how I feel about it. So we'll kind of see what that comes into. But if they were to trade Trent McDuffie, you're looking at probably a first round pick, at least for Trent McDuffie, who's young. He has years of control. Again, he's going to come with an extension, but he has all pros under his belt. So the bidding starts at a first round pick in my book. Steven, so this is a good one here because this is the topic of discussion for my film room on Wednesday. Our new cornerback, Christian Fulton, is his play style similar to L'Jarius Sneed, or what is his play to McDuffie, or what should we expect out of him? So I'm going to be diving into his tape. Actually, I've already dove into the tape, excuse me. And we're going to talk about him on Wednesday, break it down, show really what this is going to be for Kansas City. Maybe a little bit of an overpay for him, but again, had a good year coming off of injuries before that. Did get nicked up a little bit still in this season with the Chargers, but that's something the Chiefs are really trying to get out in front of. But we're seeing the cornerback market right now blow up. So you're talking about $15 million guaranteed over 2 years is not as bad as it could be for a cornerback of his caliber. At least, still young, has some prove it to it as well. So I like the signing. We'll talk about this more on Wednesday so that we can, dive deeply into that and talk about his game for sure. Appreciate that, Steve. And last one here from Micah. Any rumors of the length of Rice's suspension yet? No, we've heard nothing since last season about anything having to do with Rashee Rice. So that's just keep your ears open, your eyes peeled, and see what you get there. Jeremy, got one of our members here. You guys, if you ever want to, there's a join button right down here. Now, I'm going to apologize because I have not been very good about the rants, and I'm very sorry. I've been so busy, and I'm trying to get caught up on everything that we have. I'm going to get you guys some bonus content, our members. And this is my fault. I've been so behind on doing that. I would absolutely be getting you guys some of those. Try to work my way out of some of the busy season right now and definitely work on that. So again, I do apologize. We'll definitely be getting to it. Let me get caught up here on some of these questions that are filing in, but you can always join right down here. And if you email your YouTube account, I believe, to Ryan, I'm so bad at this, by the way. I got to get used to doing this more often. At Ryan at rgrpodcasts@gmail.com, I believe. You do that, get your name, get your YouTube account connected with Discord. You can get in there, you guys. There's lots of conversation that goes every single day. We have lots of members in there already that discuss things on a weekly, daily basis. So that's always a lot of fun. And again, there will be more bonus content for you guys coming through. And I do really feel bad about not getting all of that to you guys. So my apologies. Lots of signings and re-signings this past week. Which one is your favorite? I think overall, my favorite pure signing is Christian Fulton, just because I was a fan of Fulton coming out of LSU. And I wanted the Chiefs to draft him. Obviously, the injuries have played a role, but you saw sparks, right? Last year, you saw more of that upside of what I expected to see from him. And one thing we can say about Jesse Minter's defense in LA is that they did a really nice job of getting the most out of their players. Later into the year, you start to see some of the cracks, how, just not having enough of that talent didn't impact them a little bit, but overall, they did a really nice job getting the most out of him in Kansas City. I think he's going to be very well taken care of. As we know, in the cornerback room, then they needed depth, they needed talent, and they added both pieces right there. So him, and I'm still going to be partial to Kareem Hunt. Just having a short yardage and goal line back that actually can produce and do some of that is something that I'm very excited about personally. I appreciate that, Jeremy. Beefy Chief, what's going on, man? What are the odds we still take a left tackle in the first round? If Banks, Simmons, Ursery, Donovan Jackson, etc., are all there at 31, do we take them? Or do we pivot to defense tackle or maybe wide receiver instead? So this comes down to where the Chiefs are on their board, right? Who is available and who do they have the highest grade of? We talked about how the Chiefs this offseason, before the draft before free agency got here, how the plan was probably going to be address the offense, try to get some of those pieces done. Obviously, bringing in a cornerback is a good thing. You bring back Nick Bolton. We still have Trey Smith in-house. They want to add players that aren't necessarily, going to be 100% starters yet. Like, we don't know about Jalen Moore. We assume he's going to be starter, but we'll kind of see how that process takes its toll. They have to go through OTAs. They have to go through training camp. But overall, they want to be able to take the best player available at 31, or if someone falls on their board that they like, trade up and go get them if possible. So if there is someone at left tackle on the board that they have rated very highly at 31, they're going to take him, period. It doesn't matter. Jalen Moore is not going to stop them from drafting a tackle. So that's all I can really see them doing, is just taking best player available at that point, whether it's left tackle, defensive tackle, probably not wide receiver. I would think, unless there's literally nobody else on the board and they can't trade down, I would think that wouldn't happen. But again, you never really know until you see. But BPA has how the Chiefs want to appoint and really address this situation in my mind. Oh, what's going on, Thundarius? Nice to see you, man. Stop in and say what's up before I go record, man. Have fun. Just have fun with it. Nice to see you in here tonight. All of y'all, appreciate you being here. And again, let's answer some more of your guys' questions. Don't forget, every single super chat gets a response, no matter what. Even if we cover the topic 5 different times, it doesn't matter. We'll get you all that answer. Bradley, thank you for the question. What is the best sleeper picks for day 3? This is a tough question because there's a lot of players, right? There's always a lot of different players, and there's also a lot of needs, right? We don't know where the Chiefs are going to go in their first couple of rounds, but overall, we know the Chiefs like to take stabs at defensive backs, and I think defensive end is probably another good one, wide receiver as well. But let me pull up my grades here, some of my grades for players. So if I'm looking at like wide receiver, people start to look more about Dante Thornton out of Tennessee. He originally played at Oregon, but again, a big ball of clay. I have a 4th-round grade on him personally because of that upside. He's big, he's fast, he's got tools to become a good route runner, but he's someone that I'm looking at for the Chiefs on day 3 as well. Defensive end, Fadil Diggs out of Syracuse. He's a big Spagsy type defensive end, has a bit more explosiveness to the edge, but a nice pass rush tool bag and length as well. He's someone that I think the Chiefs would look to draft in the 4th round, probably 4th, 5th round, a little bit lower on the board. I also really like Andrew Armstrong, wide receiver out of Arkansas. I just finished up his grade. I've had quite a few people asking me about him on Twitter specifically. So if you guys are one of those, you can go to the TDN YouTube, the TDN.com, the draftnetwork.com, and actually read my report on Andrew Armstrong. Fun player, definitely a really fun player, and I'm interested to see where he ends up because I think he's someone that could be, again, an early day 3 guy and be a much better pro than he was in college. But he really got overlooked in college. Some of those 4th, 5th year guys end up being like that. But those are a couple names for you, Bradley. Another one here from Beefy Chief. How big of a need is tight end? I know Wiley will come back, but I love Mason Taylor from LSU at pick 63 or 66. Travis was talking about on the podcast last week too. So I do think that tight end should not be ruled out, but they can't really afford to take one in the 60s with some of the needs that they have, specifically in a draft class that they really like the defensive line group. And they do need defensive tackle and defensive end, especially because Charles Menhue is still out there. We don't know if FAU is ever going to be anything, and especially because we've gotten 2 years of him now. We know Mike Dana's capped, right? George Karlaftis, are we going to get a double-digit sack season from him? He's kind of a 2 right now. They still need a defensive end or 2, and it wouldn't shock me to see them double up there too. So I like tight end in this class. It's a good class too. I love Mason Taylor, but I think the Chiefs have real needs elsewhere, not just for starter potential, but for depth potential, that it takes tight end off the board for them specifically early on day 2. I just don't see it happening myself. All right, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, Daniel? Nice to see you. Oh, I do have new ink. I saw someone in here. Yeah, that's right. I got a new tattoo. Yeah, we got some more Star Wars stuff, you guys. I'm actually going to be doing more on this side as well. So this is just new. I got this on Saturday, and it took about 3 hours to get done. So that was not bad, actually. But I appreciate you noticing that. Yeah, it's hard to miss when I pull up the arm, right? It kind of shimmers. All right. Info, what's going on, man? Nice to see you. Is Tillery better than Noddy? Also, can and will Fabian Levitt be defense tackle 5 instead of re-signing Tuipulotu? So that's definitely a possibility in terms of Levitt being DT5. I think that's going to be something hopefully we see this cycle, right? This year, because they don't have Derek Noddy anymore. He just signed with the Jets. I'm hoping, because one thing that Fabian Levitt was good at, Florida State, like very good at, was run stuffing. He's big, he's hard to move, he's got length, he's got power. So I'd like to see him get some snaps because of that body type. In terms of Tillery, better than Noddy. Tillery is a better pass rusher than Derek Noddy is. He's not anywhere near the run defender. So it's kind of a trade-off. Tillery is not going to come out there and be a double team eater. He just can't do that. That's not his game. He does have length, but he does not have the anchor to be able to sit in at one tech and just eat doubles. That's just not what he's going to offer. So the Chiefs, if it's not Fabian Levitt getting out there and doing that, and they're not drafting somebody, they're in trouble. But I would imagine you see a defensive tackle with that kind of skill set drafted, or if not brought in, because again, they don't have one on the roster right now outside of Fabian Levitt. So maybe that speaks good for Levitt's chances, because I'd love to see that as well, but you never really know. We'll find out. Hopefully draft time, they get some more of those defensive tackles in and as well. And thank you for reminding me always, please. Appreciate you guys. But some likes would always be very grateful. We're always thankful for the support that you guys consistently give us. And likes are one of the ways that you can do that. So just take 2 seconds right now, hit the like button, and we'll keep going, answering more of your questions. We are about to have a huge stack of super chats, and thank you guys so much for that. As we get to this one here from Terry, bring back Willie. At this point, absolutely. He's going to be a very cost-effective linebacker. He knows the system. You do need some help at, coverage, and his splash plays would definitely be useful, right? Just do it. Just do it, Veach. We all want to see it happen. All right. What up, kid? Thank you for the super chat. Hey, Dan, who's your favorite receiver in the draft and your favorite tackle that the Chiefs have a chance at getting? All right. My wide receiver one is, no shock, Travis Hunter. I believe he's the best receiver in the class. But my personal favorite is Jalen Royals out of Utah State. I love the game that he has. I've likened him to, I don't do comps. I'm not really a comp guy, but when I watched Jalen Royals, he reminded me a lot of Stephon Diggs. More physical, I think, maybe younger Stephon Diggs when he played with the Vikings, where he was able to play outside, inside, win in a variety of ways, a physical route runner, really good footwork, really great hands, ability after the catch. Like, he's not an elite after the catch guy, but he can make guys miss. He can find space. So he's probably my personal favorite wide receiver. But in terms of best, I think it's Travis Hunter. And then my personal favorite tackle is Ariante Ursery out of Minnesota, specifically at left tackle. For right tackle, it's Marcus Bow out of Purdue. I think both of those guys are top-tier players at their positions. Bow's got short arms, probably going to play guard in the league, but Ariante, I think, can be a very good left tackle for anybody that really needs one. I think that he's definitely somebody that the Chiefs should have their eye on. I did a film review of him a few weeks ago, actually about almost a month ago, for the RGR. So if you guys have not checked that out and you're interested about Ariante Ursery, please go do that. And kid, thank you very much again for the super chat. And all of you that got free memberships here from Minotaur, round of applause. As always, this guy's in here consistently giving us all more access. And again, I need you guys to help hold me accountable for not getting you more rants. That's partly my fault. Again, we are going to do a better job of getting you more members content this offseason, and promise you guys that very much. But again, thank you very much for the support, Minotaur. Always helping other RGR fans out. And yes, if you received a gifted membership, please thank them for the generous gift. It's always great to see all of the different ways that you guys help each other, that you support us here at RGR, but consistently to help us consistently put out great content. So very, very much appreciate the support as always. Scott, thank you for the 5. Should the Chiefs consider trading Trey Smith to free up the $23 million for McDuffie and go with a cheaper right guard option? McDuffie is a bigger priority, in my opinion. I like the way you think, Scott. My original idea was that he was going to get traded, Trey Smith, that is. But I think the Chiefs want to keep their young best players as most they can. Now, in your mind, right, in your mind's eye, you're thinking Trent McDuffie is going to cost $33 million, okay? The cap's going to go up again year after year after year. And they have 3 years of feasible control of Trent McDuffie. So I think that they're thinking about this as, we don't have to get this done because we're going to pay him no matter what. And if that's the case, all right, fine. I understand it, but I also think that, it would have been nice to see them get out in front of this after Horn got his contract. And it just would have been, again, try and pay him as early as you can. And that's why I've said this a couple times, overpay a little bit early. No matter what, it's going to look better in a year. It is. If they would have given him $29 million, everyone would have been, oh, wow, he got $29 million. I don't know. And then you're going to see Sauce Gardner. And then you're going to see the Sauce contract. And then you're going to see the Derek Stingley contract that are all going to be 33, maybe 32, 31. You're going to be, oh, okay, well, it's not that bad. It's going to look way better. Now, overpay a little bit early. Have those conversations with Trent McDuffie. Have those conversations with his agent. Say, look, we know J.C. Horn just got 25 here. Here's 29. You're going to reset the cornerback market. You're going to be the highest paid corner in the NFL. You're going to make all these guys have to go back to the drawing board and then talk about them contracts. And then you can figure that out. That's what I would have done, would have tried to do myself. And again, I'm not behind closed doors. I do know that conversations happen. I also know that Brett Veach said at the combine that it was not a priority. Wasn't. And I agree with you. McDuffie is a bigger priority than Trey Smith, my opinion. But that's what I would have done. My personal opinion, right? Appreciate that. All right, we got more questions here. All right, perfect. All right. Thank you very, very much for the $5, Scott. Appreciate that. Terry, thank you very much for gifting a membership. Thank you so much for that. Congratulations to whoever got that. Again, you guys, don't forget to link your YouTube account with the Discord in there so you can get in there, have the conversations with the rest of RGR Nation, Rogue Nation here. Appreciate that as well. Thank you so much, Terry. Alex, member for 31 months. Love it. Thank you so much, man. All running backs on one-year deals, Caleb Johnson and I know you're a big Caleb Johnson fan. I am too. I'm not sure the Chiefs are ready to give a second-round pick to a running back, and I don't think the defensive line suggests they should be either, personally. I would love to see Caleb Johnson in red because, honestly, if you look at what the Chiefs are doing right now, bringing in Jalen Moore, if they put Kingsley Suamataia at left guard, we're talking about a team that can actually run multiple different types of offenses, but is best for that outside zone scheme. And that's exactly where Caleb Johnson fits. I think he can do both. He's going to be best in a zone scheme, using that efficient footwork to stretch it outside and then hit those cutback lanes. I think he's so good at that. So, I would love to see him in red. I'm just not sure the Chiefs are ready to do it, Alex. But thank you so much for the 31 months, man. Thank you. Minotaur, back with another 5, man. You just consistently given out here at RGR, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Higgins, Chase, Burrow will combine for approximately 33% of the salary cap for Cincinnati. That is one chunk of change. Man, that's tough. It's tough. But again, pay your good players. I don't have a problem with the Bengals doing it. It was probably really tough for them to do. This is not something historically as a franchise they've done. So I applaud them for going outside of their comfort zone and doing it because while I might not be the biggest T. Higgins fan in terms of him being a number one receiver outside of the Bengals, what you're seeing is where he's really valued as a wide receiver too. If you look around the NFL, these teams that have highly drafted players, the Eagles with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Now you have the Bengals here with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. You want to keep these young cores intact as best you possibly can. And doing that is going to be expensive. But sometimes you have to sacrifice 33% of the cap with your quarterback to match that up. But also you have to be able to hit your draft picks. Bengals have not been able to do so. All right. They have not. They've tried to draft defensive ends. They drafted Amarius Mims last year. He got hurt a couple of times. I was a big Amarius Mims fan too. But that was the knock, right? It was he's going to get hurt. And then at corner, we're going to see a little bit more from Dax Hill, but they have not been able to really get some of these Michigan guys, unfortunately, to be able to work for them. So you have to hit your draft picks. So right now, this draft for them, in my opinion, is going to be a huge draft. And then meshing it with their defensive coordinator, the new one, it's tough, man. It's tough. But thank you so much for the 5 there. Man, Minotaur, you're so awesome. Appreciate you. Bradley Havens. How worried are we about both the offensive line and the spine of the defense? I'm pretty worried. specifically, I think that the spine of the defense is fine. Um, it is what it is. It's run by Nick Bolton, and I think that it's going to be just fine of what the Chiefs want, specifically what Steve Spagnuolo wants. So at the end of the day, I'm not too mad about that. I'm slightly worried about the offensive line. I did the Jalen Moore review last week. I showed you guys where he's going to be good, where he's got work to do and improve, and he's 27 years old. And the Chiefs are kind of baking in some improvement into the contract as well with the amount of money they are guaranteeing him. So there is a little bit of hit or miss with these kind of things. Now, typically with their tackles, look at Juwan Taylor. They projected him to get way better too, and they paid him $20 million a season. Now, for Moore, they're projecting him a bit more as well, but they guaranteed him $20 million for 2 seasons. So realistically, it's not a terrible situation to be in. You do have to do some of that. You have to be able to give out some money here and there to be able to improve your offensive line. And they are hoping that he can get better. And hopefully if the Chiefs actually run some outside zone and really get back to their zone roots this season, run the ball a bit more effectively, it will pay off. But I'm a little bit more worried about that because you're going to have 2 new players on the left side of the offensive line. No more Joe Thuney to really help out the tackle. So that chemistry is going to be very, very important for this team going forward. So that's more of my concern, is that we don't really know what that's going to look like. We know what the spine of the defense is going to look like. They're going to have some plays where it's like, oh, yeah, Nick Bolton's not really good in coverage, and Drew Tranquil bulked up to get better against the run, and it's showing it as his coverage. So, like, overall, it's just going to kind of look what it has looked like, which could be worse, I guess. Appreciate that, Bradley. Another Bradley. We got like so many Bradleys in here tonight. What's up, everybody? Come on to the draft at 31. Where do the Chiefs and where'd you like them to take Darius Alexander at that spot? I know you like him too. Agree or disagree? So we got a couple of here about Darius Alexander. Beefy comes right after Bradley and says, "Is Darius Alexander, being 25 years old, change whether you draft him at 31?" So to answer both of your guys' questions, personally, I would prefer them to trade down and be able to get him a little bit later in the 30s, because that type of athlete, that kind of disruptive nature and that kind of physical presence that he does bring, because he still can take up on double teams as well at his size. He's got length. He can play on a little bit on the edge as well. So he fits exactly what the Chiefs are looking for. It's definitely an appealing player to have. The fact that he's 25 years old means nothing to me at all, especially because the last 2 seasons are where he's really shown and gotten better as a player. So you're like wanting to harness that, right? You want to say the next 5 years, or even at 4 years, 29 years old, you get out. If he's still getting better, you can still pay him, and it's not that big a deal. So overall, I'm not worried about his age, Beefy, but I'm interested to see if the Chiefs feel that he'd be worth taking at 31. Personally, I'd rather them trade back or wait until 60 or trade up in the 50s for that, because I don't think that at 31 is where I would personally value Darius Alexander in this draft. A very good player, but I think I'd probably trade back if I possibly could. So that's what I'll say right there. Adam, nice to see you back, man. Yeah, Kyle, I will. No problem. I'll show you. Yeah, nope, no worries. Adam, let's see you back in here. I'm hearing lots on Calais Campbell. Would you sign him for $3 to $6 million? Yeah, absolutely. Got no problems with that. At his age, he's looking for Super Bowl essentially, but I haven't really he hasn't really figured that out yet. With the Jags and then the Falcons, he hasn't really figured out the team yet. So it would make a lot of sense to put him in Kansas City, because that body type, he'd probably be more of a, playing a little bit more on third down. You might not want to use him a ton against the run, especially because if you do bring him in, he's going to be like this hybrid in terms of, you don't really want him at one tech, but you want him next to Chris Jones in some situations like that. You can play him on the edge a little bit too. So he fits a little bit what they want, but he's more of a mercenary at this point. So 3 to 6 makes a lot of sense. Probably in there like 4.5, 5 million. And then you get somebody for 1 year to help fill out the defensive line. And then also, if you draft someone like a Darius Alexander or another defense tackle, maybe Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan, he can help develop along with Chris Jones. So that's just an interesting dynamic that I'd like to see him in Kansas City for too. All right. Actually, you know what? Kyle, this is the tattoo, by the way. It's upside down. Ugh. I need to find a better way to showcase that. Let me look something up real quick, you guys. Just taking a quick. All right. My bad. So, Kyle, this is the high ground scene from episode 3, where they're on Mustafar's system, and there's Obi-Wan, and then there's Anakin down there. I'm actually going to get, it's like a yin and yang thing. We're going to go with a little bit more up here. This is going to be the Obi-Wan and Darth Vader fight from episode 4 on this side. So it's going to go a little red here, a little maybe dark blue and green up here. So I'm excited about it. I'm definitely excited about it. Appreciate your interest. Lots of Star Wars stuff on my arm. All right, back to the questions. Info, nice to see you. Once again, another question from you. Why don't teams have a team of contract lawyers on hand? Shouldn't Veach be able to go to them and say, write up a 4-year, $100 million contract with these stipulations and walk away? Why so low, one at a time? I mean, that's what their entire, that's what the entire front office is for. They had Brent Tills who would handle all of that, right? That they have people that do handle those things. But again, you have to be able to make those contacts with the agent. The agent has to be willing to, talk to whoever it is that's reaching out. So it's not as easy as just, I would imagine they also have some lawyers on hand. I mean, personally, I would think so. I don't know the ins and outs of that myself. I'm not as well versed in the front office, the money stuff. I think Chris Clark for Locked On Chiefs would have a better answer for you guys if you want to ask him on Twitter. But overall, we know that they typically have somebody that writes the contracts and is the focal point of that. And I would imagine they have people underneath them. I mean, again, that's what Brent Tills did for the Chiefs. Now he works with the Panthers. But that's what you're looking for, right? You're looking. The Chiefs have people that do that as well. So it's all there, and it gets kind of dicey in terms of understanding all the ins and outs of the contracts and knowing what to write and how to write them up. So at the end of the day, the Chiefs are the ones that prioritize what they do and what the contracts that are written and who they talk with at whatever point in time. So wish I could have answered that a bit better, but I don't know a ton about the workings of that side of it. So. All right. For the Chiefs, we build through the draft and not waste money on high positions like the Bengals do, and don't draft well either. All right. That's kind of what it is, right? The Chiefs did a much better job at actually building through the draft. And while they didn't necessarily waste money, they did wait a little bit too long on some of these contracts, right? They made Chris Jones play it out a year, and then he had to hold out into the regular season. And Trey Smith and Nick Bolton waited another season instead of having their contracts done last year. When you push things out a little bit longer and you kind of make them play the waiting game, you do end up paying a little bit more in the long run than you do now, right? So I would imagine whenever Trey Smith's contract comes down, it's going to look pretty big. And that might not become a bargain for you. But if he would have gotten a contract last year, at least a little bit more of an overpay initial, excuse me, what looked like an overpay initially probably would look like a bargain right now. That's kind of my point. But the Bengals, again, waited too long with T. Higgins, 2 years. Yeah, it's warm in here. So they ended up having to pay him a ton, and Jamar Chase was always going to cost a lot of money because they didn't get that done before the eventual contract that came down for Myles Garrett, which affected his contract as well. All of the big ones, best players in the league, affect each other. So Myles Garrett impacted Jamar Chase's contract. That's just how that works. Thank you very much, Bradley. Appreciate you. All right. Can we give? I just appreciate you, Jesse. for the question. Can we give Najee a shot at safety, or are the Chiefs just not into the idea at all? I felt like when they drafted him because even though he played safety, he probably fit better as a corner for them. And now, unless we're talking about moving him to pure free safety, the Chiefs have a ton of box safeties already. If he can play free for him, that would be interesting. But he hasn't really shown enough speed to be able to play free safety at all. So he probably maxes out as more of a box or a too high and the nickel player. But he also wasn't great at nickel. So there's not a lot going for him right now. And unless he gets better this next year, again, he was slated to be a starter for them 2 seasons ago. Then he got hurt last year. He wasn't very good when he was coming back from the injury. So 2 years removed is usually when you see guys get their legs under them. So we'll kind of have to make that decision based off of this season. And he was tendered, so he'll be with Chiefs this year, more as a special teams guy, but more at depth at cornerback too. So I'd like to see it if they could get him fully healthy with his legs underneath him, but we'll kind of wait and see what happens there. Thank you for another one here, Bradley. I still think that the Chiefs still need to draft a running back because we need speed and vision, and at the position the switch can do both. Oh, so which one can do both? Yeah, there's lots of them in this class that have vision and speed. Overall, I think that we know Kareem Hunt is the only one on the roster that has vision. Elijah Mitchell's fine, and Isaiah Pacheco is fine. They are both good at two different types of offense, though. Pacheco is a power scheme back. He's not very good at zone runs, and Elijah Mitchell is an outside zone guy. So they have two differing opinions, options there with terms of what used to be explosive. So right now we're thinking about looking at the third day 3. Rashard Smith out of SMU is on the smaller side, but he has speed, he has vision, elusiveness. He's an ex-receiver, so he has the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, still improving as a pass protector. That's an option as well. But the guys that are going to be there on day 2, if the Chiefs are going to go that high with a running back, Caleb Johnson is one of those guys. We talked about him earlier. I love, personally, Quinshon Judkins of Ohio State, formerly of Ole Miss. He played better at Ole Miss by a long shot, didn't really fit into what the Buckeyes were doing. Travion Henderson's also a good option for them, more as a 1B or 1A running back, but they don't really have a ton of draft capital on, at least enough to put at running back, in my opinion. I'd love to see it if you can get one of those guys in the 3rd round. That would make a lot of sense to me, but I think Judkins would be the option to go for because he had a down year. He tested well, but that was on tape in 2023 when he played at Ole Miss. If you guys are interested, I would go watch that tape of him because it's way better than his Ohio State tape, in my opinion. Gary, one of our oldest members here and one of our moderators. Appreciate you being here, Gary. Do the Chiefs take a defensive tackle or defensive end with their first 2 picks? They're going to take one or both with their first 2. It's just going to be a matter of where, right? We know if someone falls on the offensive side at tackle, most likely they'll draft one of them if they're high on their board. I'm still leaning towards defensive tackle as the first pick for the Chiefs, specifically because they just haven't done anything. They haven't done anything. And even though they haven't brought back Charles Menahue, they still have FAU and possibility of Chris Jones playing outside. Mike Dana, they brought back Herring. They also have GK Karlaftis. So they have bodies, but this is a good defensive end class too. So it would not shock me to see one on day 2, even if their first pick is one, just because of this specific class. It makes a lot of sense for them. Appreciate that, Gary. Kurt, what's going on, man? Nice to see you in here. What are the free safeties looking like in the draft? So I haven't done a ton of true free safeties, and plus there's not a ton of guys that only play free. There's a lot of guys that can play too high. Most defenses now are too high. They play some, cover 3, cover 4 is mostly what you see a lot, cover 2 as well. So guys that split the defense in half. But somebody who I'm very high on that is under the radar, in my opinion, safety Lathan Ransom out of Ohio State. I think he can do everything. And another guy that is not talked about at all, Makari Page out of Michigan. He's a big safety, but I think he has the speed to be able to play a little bit more at free, definitely more so than Brian Cook. Those are 2 guys that I have my eye on specifically. But when I watch a little bit more of some of these safeties. I'll definitely get to you guys more so on those guys that can play free. There's just not a ton that have really asked to do that either, which makes it more difficult. I appreciate you, Kurt. All right. All right. What's going on? Is this Saka Stark or Soka? Probably Saka. Do you favor a trade back? A lot of very good players in the second round that aren't very far from the players in the first round. I love Jaden Higgins and Travion. Any chance we grab those? Yes, I would love to see the Chiefs trade down. I think this is the draft to do it, specifically because there's really not a ton of difference in terms of value, in my opinion, from the 31st player in the draft all the way down to probably the 60. Like those players are going to be all graded relatively the same, at least in my opinion. So I think that if you can manage to get a trade down out of the first round and pick up another top 100 pick, if someone's coming up to maybe get a quarterback, something like that, yeah, I think they can absolutely do that. Jaden Higgins is someone I would love to see in Kansas City. He would give them an actual X presence on the outside to allow your big yards after catch receiver and Rashee Rice to stay in the slot a little bit more, and you can move around guys. Still, he can still play a little bit in the slot, play on the outside. So you keep that totality of your wide receiver room, where the year after, when it's Rashee Rice and then Higgins and Xavier Worthy, then everyone still has that same versatility. They can all play in different roles. You still have yards after catch guys, and Higgins can do some of that as well. He's just also that guy on the outside that, gives you that big presence, can go get the football, but also has very good footwork and understanding. And Travion, for everything that I love about him, I'm still a little bit worried about his ability to hold up to hits. And one of the things that you really saw take a knockdown from his his freshman year at Ohio State is the ability to finish through contact. He's more of going to put his shoulder down and go down just a little bit easier than he used to. He's not really going to be hitting guys, and he's going to get hit more often in the NFL by bigger, faster athletes, even from the Big Ten, coming from the Big Ten. So he's a very good 2B, or a 1B, someone you want to have in a dual backfield, but doesn't have to carry all the burden of being the guy, in my opinion. So I like both players. You just got to have a plan for Henderson, in my opinion. What's going on, James? Nice to see you. Will the Chiefs draft pick 31 wide receiver Burden, and pick 63 Ursery, pick 66 Omar Norman Law, and pick 95 Devin Neal? So these are always tough. It's hard to get 4 picks in a row right. I don't think Luther Burden's going to be in Kansas City. He's probably going to go higher than that, just purely based on talent. Ursery, I think, gets picked before 63. I don't think he's fallen that far. I wouldn't have him fall that far personally. Again, I have him as a first round player. Norman Lott would be that'd be a good spot for him. And I think Chiefs would be, especially if they go wide or offense before that, that would be a good spot for him as well. Devin Neal at 95, I think that's probably a really good spot for him and for the Chiefs as well. Again, you're not seeing that explosiveness, but he has the vision, the ability to take hits, pass protection, the ability to catch the football. So you might not have that true back-breaking speed that you see from some of these other backs, but he has the all-around game that translates to where the Chiefs want, and he's going to be comfortable in his own scheme as well. So I like the Devin Neal addition if they can make it work. I think that both of the first 2 picks in this just maybe don't really happen for the Chiefs in that specific way. Appreciate that, James, though. Terry Mitchell, another one of our members here. Thank you for your question. Any way you see us signing a defensive end before the draft? No. Unless Charles Omenihu comes back, which, I mean, he could. And in the second wave of free agency, I don't think he's going to get paid a ton coming off of back-to-back years where he was hurt. He's probably trying to convince teams that he can play healthy. And he probably wants a bit more than a prove-it contract, because I would imagine right now he's getting a lot of just prove-it contracts from teams, and he probably wants a little more security, which is fair. But also, you haven't been playing as much. So also fair. But I think most likely what we'll see is where the Chiefs end up leaving what they have, what they are, and then drafting another one. Appreciate you, Terry. Thank you, Sin. Thank you for the donation there, the $1. Appreciate that always for the support. And I did see that you said it could only be $1. That's perfectly fine. I don't know why it's like that. I I don't have any idea if somebody else can help her with that, because I've never actually used this before on my own time to be able to donate to any other YouTube stuff or my own. So if anybody else can help her out with that, I'm not entirely sure. We also might have to wait till Ryan gets back here to help you with that, because he's got more understanding on the technical side. But no matter what, thank you very much for the support. It is always greatly appreciated, no matter what it is. If it's $1, you just being here, that's all we really care about. Nevis, excuse me. Thank you. Love seeing people come back in here for more of these lives. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you missed it, because now you're back. And it always makes me happy to see people back as much as we possibly can get you in here, because that's the point of this, right? We want to make sure we teach. Like, that's the point of this channel, at least for me. I have my own personal opinions. That is what it is. I'm not going to be right about those all the time, but I always like watching more film, getting more knowledgeable about it, and then passing that information that I learned to you guys. Like, that's what this is about for me. I love teaching in that way, shape, and form. So I appreciate you being here, and hopefully we can get you some more of that knowledge that I'm trying to bring. Here, we're supposed to bring balance to the Force, not destroy it. Exactly. I almost considered like getting, Anakin's stubby body on here just as more of a joke, but it turned out much better without it. Thank you, Beefy. Appreciate ya. Oh, looks like Sin fixed it. So I'll get to that here in a second, Sin. I wouldn't mind Lockett as a fourth option type. I still believe he can play in the slot well. From Alex. Yeah, I mean, sure. If it's going to be a pretty, simple, like easy contract, fine. But I don't think a multiple year thing works for him, specifically because of his age and some of the nicks he's been getting over the past couple of seasons. Plus, the Chiefs have a guy that would do pretty much the exact same thing, probably just better and younger, in Hollywood Brown. So personally, I think Hollywood gives you what Tyler Lockett does at this point, but more explosive, a little bit better. He's probably better downhill. Tyler Lockett, but probably better downfield, ball tracking. But I think where the Chiefs want to operate in utilizing a Hollywood Brown with his ability next to Xavier Worthy makes a little bit more sense. And maybe you can get him play a full season and get another contract from him. Tyler Lockett, if he's coming in for a cheap contract, granted, the Chiefs just brought back Juju Smith-Schuster, so another veteran probably doesn't make a ton of sense for them specifically anymore. So I understand the thought process, Alex, but I think I'm out on that one. And Sin, it looks like you were able to, like I said, figure that out. So thank you very much for the support. I have been watching tackles featuring DJ. Looks better than Kingsley or Wanye or more. What am I missing? Okay. I have been watching tackles feet. DJ looks better than Kingsley, Wanye Morris, or more. What am I missing? So, big thing. Health. That's number one. DJ had one game really where he was able to get out there. The first game he got hurt when he came back, so he's had 2 injuries in the span of a year. The ACL, and then he hurt his hamstring coming back the first time. So that's part of it. The other thing is he was late getting to his spot. The reason that he got beat up against the Broncos was he was kind of inconsistent getting back to his spot. And the reason you're seeing more Kingsley and Wanye Morris, granted, we'll see what happens with Wanye Morris, still in Kansas City, is because all 3 of them are younger than DJ, and all 3 of them are healthier. They have an immediately healthier. Now, Moore did get hurt against Miami last year, but 27 years old, and they believe he has the ability to get better. They believe Wanye Morris has the ability to get better, maybe not at tackle, but at guard at least. And Kingsley still has value as a developmental player. They can get better. DJ is who he is. He's not going to be getting better. And there's also a good chance he never plays at the height of his career again. And that's why, one, he's not back in Kansas City, and the Chiefs decided to take a shot on Jalen Moore, because of the ability to possibly still get better. Thank you very much for the support. I hope that answered your question as best that I possibly can, because that's really what it comes down to, in my opinion. All right, last call here for super chats. Anybody? We are going to speed round the last 5 minutes here so you guys can get off and go enjoy the rest of your evening with your family. Scott, thank you for being here. Will they extend or trade Trey? If extend, what sort of terms? So you're looking at probably a 4-year contract north of $105 million. That's what I would say. Maybe. So if we look at the franchise tag is $23 million for a season. So if we expect him to maybe get a little bit more than that, maybe a tad less, maybe the numbers come in more closer to 96, 97, 98 million dollars a year, but it's all about the guaranteed money. You're probably going to see north of 60% of that guaranteed, but I'm not the contracts guy. I think they're going to try to extend him personally. I'm less confident because they were very confident, came out, said, yep, we're going to get the contract done with Trey Smith. And then a few weeks later, they were hopeful to get the contract done. So I'm interested. I still side with right now extending him because they did trade Joe Thuney. They picked one, and I would imagine that they try to retain that player. Thank you for the question, Scott. Daniel Lambert, thank you for being here, and thank you for your question. Are the Chiefs and the Commanders going to be fined or lose draft picks for tampering with the Ravens left tackle? No, they will not be. Because at the end of the day, there's no proof that they did anything wrong. The thing about having a contract on the table is more about the Chiefs saying, if Ronnie Stanley hits free agency, this is what we would have offered him. Same with the Commanders. So unless they find any concrete evidence that they were contacting the agent or the player outside of the realm of the legal tampering period, there will be no fines, which I don't think they can prove. Brenda, thank you for the support. Thank you so much. And no, thank you for being here. I love being here and answering guys' questions. It's a great day for me, and always the support is greatly appreciated. So thank you for being here, as you always are, Brenda, one of our very, very loyal members here at RGR Football. Thank you very much. Alex, got one from for you right here. Dan, I would just like to ask, how in the hell did Cade McNamara find a team to pick him up? Also, my Hawkeyes got transfer QB Mark Gronsky. Do you know anything about him? I don't know anything about Mark. I apologize, Alex. And honestly, as someone who watched Cade McNamara for years at Michigan, I don't understand it. Makes no sense to me at all. How? That's even a possibility because he's awful. Best of luck to your Hawkeyes with Mark. Hopefully it's better than what you've had to deal with, because I understand the pain, and I'm right there with you, Alex. I appreciate you. And again, I am hopeful for you. All right, last call here for questions, super chats, anything else you guys got? Personally, right here, Dax is asking if we can get some mock draft simulators, including trades. I don't do a ton of mocks anymore. I've been so busy, at the Draft Network putting together prospect evaluations and things like that. But I will try and get some mock drafts for you guys. Maybe we'll do some Sunday streams where we do some mock drafts, but that's definitely something Ryan and I should be doing more of. Maybe we can do those in the form of some bonus content as well. That'd be pretty cool. All right. Beefy, I know you've had a couple of questions about Hollins Pierce multiple times. I have not watched Hollins Pierce. I just know that he's huge. I know he's just a mountain of a man, like 6'8", I think, with 36-inch arms. The dude is huge, and I don't know anything about him, unfortunately. So if I do get eyes on him, I'll make sure to let you guys know and tell you all what I do think. But at the end of the day, I don't know much about him. Jeremy, thank you for your question. Dream pick and position. So this one is tough for me, specifically with this draft class, because it's not the best tackle class. But I think I would love to see Walter Nolan, defense tackle out of Ole Miss, fall to 31, and the Chiefs draft him. Value and I think upside player, as well as need at defensive tackle. So I think that's where I land right now. I know a lot of people like Kenneth Grant, but I'm much higher on Walter Nolan than I am on Grant. Last one, and then we will get y'all out of here. Thank you for the $2 from Slammin' Sam. Defense tackle at 31, Ursary at 63. Defensive end at 66, Stanley Stutzman at 65, Hollins Pierce at 127. So defense tackle, sure, let's go. Defense tackle with Walter Nolan. And again, I don't think Ursary is going to be there at 63. I'm not entirely sure why everyone thinks he's going to be there at 63, but he's, again, in my opinion, one of the best left tackles in the class. I think he's going to go in the first round, if not early second round. Defensive end at 66. My personal pick is Femi Oladajo out of UCLA. I think that would be a perfect fit for the Chiefs defense. I do not like Danny Stutzman at all. Unfortunately, Slammin, don't mean to disappoint you. But in terms of linebacker, there's a few of them. You might be able to get away with a Chris Paul Jr. Ole Miss at 95. Again, I think that's probably where he ends up going late day two. Good speed, good sideline to sideline speed. He's got really short arms, but he's a good player overall. And again, Hollins Pierce at 127, maybe a little bit later. I don't know much about him, but I don't mind that at all. And very much thank you for your support. You guys, thank you. This went by super, super fast. If you guys, again, please, before you head on out, hit that like button. Help us get out to more Chiefs fans everywhere as we can continue to grow RGR and Rogue Nation every single week. The offseason is one of the harder times to grow, so we always appreciate the support. And thank you all for spending an hour of your evening with me answering questions. If you guys ever need to reach out, you can always hit me up on Twitter at InHarmsWay19. But don't forget, Ryan's probably not going to have anything for tomorrow because he is, again, on vacation. And then Wednesday, I will have a film review of Christian Fulton coming your way. Enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. I'll see you next time. Have a great one.